housekeeping items to go over, and then we'll take it away. So the headline for this session is really, how rental works to sustain double-digit growth over multiple years. And Sam, I'll let you tell that story, but you've been with the company 15 years and a lot of ups and downs, mostly ups, right? And you've been able to grow. And the purpose of this meeting is kind of dive into some of those tactics that you've seen to help grow your business. So there's 5 things we'll talk about: equipment, technology, competing with the national players, people, and then the funding aspect. And just for the audience, feel free to chat in questions at any point. This is hopefully be interactive. We'll also have some time at the end for Q&A. And as you chat in the questions, I'll make sure to pause and ask them to Sam. So that's really it. It's hopefully be a good conversation here. So before I kick it over to you, Sam, for your background and just kind of hear a little bit about your story, I'd love to put you on the spot with an icebreaker, given we are the 2 people here, both from Annapolis, Maryland. Not everyone's from Annapolis. I would say we're probably the only people here from Annapolis. So I guess my question for you, one day in Annapolis, someone's coming to visit, what do they do? Crab cakes, maybe a football game. What's the one thing they got to do?
Crab cakes. You've got to visit the Naval Academy. It's a little harder to get on these days with security, but you can walk on, and the Naval Academy is just an unbelievable spot. And then you got to find someone with a boat. There's more boats than people in Annapolis, I believe. And you got to find someone with a boat. You got to get out on the water. Hopefully they'll take you to Cantlers or to a place with some fresh crabs and pick some crabs as well. Yeah.
Are you the friend with a boat that we can call?
Absolutely. Right. I am one of the friends with the boat. But there are many people with nicer boats than me, I promise you. It's quite a tour when you get on the water.
There's always a bigger boat driving down Ego Alley.
Always.
Cool. Well, Sam, take us back 15 years ago. You're getting started. How did you get into the rental industry? Tell me about your journey just from the beginning, how you got in and kind of the ups and downs over the past 15 years.
Yeah. So, like a lot of rental people, I am a 2nd generation rental guy. My father started Rental Works in 1978 in Annapolis, Maryland. And he was started by, a guy that he admired and was kind of his mentor, a guy named Gene Rao. And so I grew up in it. I grew up watching my dad do the rental business. He went to work every day in jeans and boots and brought home skid steers for us to plow our driveway when it snowed. So I really did grow up in it. I went to college and played sports in college and was absolutely sure I wasn't going to do anything having to do with the rental business. And then I got out of college, and it was 2007, and I'm looking for a job and trying to figure out what I want to do. And 2008 came, and there weren't that many jobs in 2008, 2009. And so I kind of went back and started a family business, started working back in the family business. And a credit to my father, he made me start working right from the bottom. So made $11 an hour for the first 2 years, and then wanted to be an assistant manager. And he said, no, he said, just keep working hard. And then we opened a store, our 2nd location. And then I did take over management there. And then a few years later, went into outside sales. And really that's where our company began to grow exponentially. When I went out and started actually just driving the product. And so since that moment, it was me doing 60,000 miles a year on my truck. Till now, we've developed a sales team of 9, hopefully 10 guys here by the end of the month. We've gone from 2 stores to 5 stores with hopefully a 6th here at the end of the year, and 1 service center. So technically 7 locations. And really, when I think about our company and growth, there's always the tension between revenue and operations, and which one's going to trump which, right? And you never want one too far out of balance, but we've always been the company that said we're going to go out and find the business and drive customer growth and find the revenue, and then our operations will catch up. And so that's been our model. we've had to do a lot of catching up with our operations. That's been certainly a challenging bit of growth, but obviously, the last couple of years, last 4 or 5 years have been phenomenal for the rental industry as a whole, and obviously for us in Annapolis.
Yeah, well, thanks for that. When you said assistant regional manager, I couldn't help but think of Dwight Schrute, assistant.
Yeah. Yeah. No, my dad wouldn't even let me be the assistant to it was just counter guy.
Yeah, counter guy. So, I mean, you've started at the bottom, really. I mean, you kind of worked your way up. Is there any pitfalls to focusing on revenue first over operations? Like, what's the dark side? What's the downside to having that focus?
Yeah, that's a great question. There was a downside pre-COVID and a downside now post-COVID. Post-COVID is, before COVID, I could go out and find a deal, and let's say a customer needed 6 boom lifts on a job, and I didn't have the 6 boom lifts. I could call, Genie, JLG, Skyjack, and probably get those 6 boom lifts in fairly quickly. Post-COVID, that's absolutely impossible, right? So we are having to plan ahead for jobs that we don't have now to make sure we have the equipment. So that was before COVID or post-COVID. Pre-COVID, the problem really was we just had so much growth that really getting the deals were not the problem. Getting it to the job sites, making sure mechanics were up to date and knew what they were doing, fixing it. We would have 1 or 2 mechanics on staff, and all of a sudden we had 3 times as many rentals. We realized very quickly how fast we needed to hire mechanics to give the kind of customer service that we were selling, right? Because that was the big thing we were selling, is customer service and responsiveness to what our customers needed on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, we think of uptime and customer service, that's a huge differentiator for groups in the rental industry, particularly as you compete against the national players, which we'll talk about here in a bit. Is there a cap on how fast you could grow right now? And is that cap based on availability? Like what's the, I guess the bottleneck for you guys currently, you think about the next 2 years?
Yeah, I mean, for us, there's really 3 things that, in our opinion, drive the rental, a rental store location or market, right? So opening new locations, equipment. Obviously, if you don't have the equipment, you can't rent it or you can't make more revenue, right? We're kind of constrained by that. But then also people. I mean, people is massive. And just so everyone knows, we've really said we think we can find the equipment and we're willing to open stores, but the hardest thing is people, and getting people that buy into our culture and our core values, that want to sell. And because everyone talks about customer service, but really it's our people that push that customer service. And if they don't meet our core values, we won't be successful. No matter how much equipment we have or how many locations we have, we will fail and they will go to the big box store. So we really put people first, and then equipment, and then stores. And we are constrained by the equipment. Obviously, if you're in the rental industry right now, you know that you have a ton of orders out there that they promise will be here at a certain date that will never meet that deadline. So that's obviously constraining us as well.
Yeah, let's talk about people. I mean, that was one of the 5 things we talked about talking about today was people. You've mentioned that as the most important thing. Talk to me about how you find people. What do you look for? There's labor shortages everywhere, and there's also there's always been a shortage of great people. How do you guys think about that? How do you find A players in a competitive space?
Yeah. So, I mean, first thing we did about 4 years ago when we started this growth phase, we realized we needed to get on point with who we're looking for. And we came up with our core values. And just quickly, our core values: teamwork, someone that wants to buy into the whole company, not just themselves or not just one location. Growth, and what we meant by growth was someone that wanted to bring new ideas to the table, someone that wanted to help us think of new ways to accomplish hard tasks. And then a culture of yes, right? So many times you call some of these big box stores and it's not sitting in their yard, or it's just not an easy solution, so they say no. We wanted to be the guys that said yes, even when it was a hard question, like, hey, do you rent TVs, right? We don't really rent TVs, but if the guy really wants to rent TVs, we'll figure out how to do it, or how to figure out how to maybe refer them somewhere. And then the last two are really important, and that's caring. We really want our people to care about their communities. And we really feel like caring for our employees and our employees caring for one another makes it for a really great work environment. And obviously we all work and probably spend more of our time working than we do even sometimes at home. But we want our people to know that their home life is more important than what they do for a job. And then the last is integrity, that we do what we say we're gonna do. And that we really try to live by a moral code of just accomplishing and doing what we say we're going to do.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, so we've got a mix of groups on the call. We've got groups your size, 6, 7 locations. We've got groups 1 location. We've also got groups who are starting off. No matter who you are, people is going to be an important part of this. So if you had to get some advice, thinking about, first of all, where do you find the top of funnel talent? Where do you find candidates to interview? And then number 2, how do you put them through the interview process to make sure you're vetting for those 5 different values that you said are important to your story?
Yeah. So my first piece of advice is come up with your core values and stick to them. And when we were told about core values, it's what's already in your company, living and breathing, just not defined, right? So define what is already in your company. But then really looking for it in all the weird nooks and crannies, right? We've hired family, we've hired friends. Obviously, the best way is when we find someone great. We ask them and incentivize our people to bring in their friends and people that they think would fit the culture of RentalWorks. So we're looking everywhere. I will tell you, just kind of on a negative side, one of the areas we don't go to often is leftovers from the big box and the Sun Belts and the Uniteds. And that's not to say we haven't ever. We certainly know and like a lot of those guys, but they have been trained in a different way of doing the rental business in some ways, right? They are putting out a bunch of bulk stuff, and they're sometimes going out there and being a little cheaper on price. Or just don't really know the grind that is kind of the smaller independent rental company. And they're not really willing to do everything that entails, right? When we hire someone, sometimes we ask them to pressure wash equipment, and sometimes we ask them to answer phones, and sometimes we ask them to deliver equipment, right? So we needed really versatile people, and we were looking for people that were willing to get the job done, as opposed to someone that just wanted to be on their, I just want to sit here and answer a phone. And so we accomplished that really by incentivizing our people to find people that wanted to do that, and bringing in people we know and like. When I started in the business and I was in the yard, I asked my best friend to join me, right? 15 years later, he's still with us. And he's brought in people he knew, and he's brought in some family members. So yeah, it was word of mouth for us, really was the secret sauce.
Yeah, word of mouth. We have at Quipli, we have my wife's cousin was one of our first hires, and my best friend is chief operating officer. We've had a mix as well.
Yeah.
We have a question from the audience. Any recommendations on how to go about handing off hiring responsibilities to location managers when expanding to new locations? I think the context there is obviously you started at the bottom but moved to more senior role. Thinking about that handoff, at the specific locations.
Yeah. Well, I will tell you, because we put hiring at such a premium, I will admit that we're not perfect at this. And I will tell you, we are constantly in conversation about this exact topic. Currently, we are debating whether to hire a HR person, a recruiting HR kind of role, because if we really say people is our most important thing, then we may want to have someone that just solely focuses on that. To this point, it has been me and a team of guys, our executive team. We have 3 members on our executive team that really manage the hiring. And the way we handle it is our our store managers will bring in, people will walk in or they'll get it, and they will do the first interview. What we kind of, it's a feeler, right? They ask them very basic things like, hey, do you mind pressure washing equipment? Do you mind, do you know how to use a computer? Some pretty basic stuff. And then they get an idea of, and I know this is somewhat crazy, but we have to ask them, do they have a car to get to work, right? Where do they live? So, and that obviously depends on what's, to what job they're applying. But we do that initial interview, and if they like them, then they bring it to their executive team member. I would be the executive team member for kind of sales and revenue generating. We have a team member that handles our dispatch and service department. And then we have an executive team member that handles kind of the mid-level and counter sales guys. And then yard guys as well there. So, and we do a second round interview kind of with one of those executive team members. And if everyone signs off and agrees, then we hire them. And then just so everyone knows, if there is a higher level, like an HR director type person, obviously that would go to our CEO as well. So, and again, for those of you that don't know, we have an ownership group, right? And then we have our executive team, and my partner, we're both partners, we're both owners of the company, but we're also both on the executive team. But David is technically our CEO. And we as an ownership group chose him to kind of be the guy that breaks the ties. And, again, when it comes to higher level hiring, he helps us there as well.
Great. I've got one more people question, and I've got another question in the audience. I just want to go back to what you said, and don't worry, there's no United Sunbelt people on the call as far as I know, but
yeah.
I'm curious
okay.
why do you not see a lot of success for your company in hiring from the big box stores? Is part one. Part two is, how important is rental experience for someone getting into the space? And I know you want to hire for the 5 values there. How do you weigh someone who's a perfect fit on values, but maybe doesn't have the rental experience? How important is that?
Yeah, I'll start there. The rental experience for us, we don't feel like you need to have rental experience. What we do feel like you need to know before you join the rental world is the type of people you're going to work with, right? You're going to work with blue collar, construction, so if someone comes in and only wants to work with, people in suits, or only wants to wear a suit to work each day, which is okay, right? I get that. And there are people that like to do that kind of work. But that's not really what we do, right? So in terms of, rental experience, I don't think you need it. But what you do need to know and be okay with is the type of people that you're going to work with and around and for. But truthfully, and this kind of answers the second part of your question, if you've worked at one rental store, it doesn't mean you've worked at all of them, right? Each store does something a little different. The truth is there's probably 3 or 4 names for every type of equipment we have, right? When you think about a telehandler, shooting boom, forklift, shoot boom, people call them all kinds of things. So we get people from kind of other rental stores that come in and apply and have a lot of experience, but may not use our terminology. So we still have to train them on our processes, our ways of doing things, our terminology, our pricing structure. And then just a little bit further on why we don't find a ton of success with the bigger box stores. They tend to pay a little more, and they tend to want everyone to stay right in kind of their line, right? They don't want a driver to be a yard guy. They don't want a yard guy to get in the truck and drive. They will train you and maybe help you grow in those areas. But in terms of kind of overlapping, they just don't love that. And again, that's okay. That's their business model. Our business model is way more versatility. Obviously, we have to watch our bottom line, and we're really trying to stick to about a 30 to 33% revenue to employee costs, right? Or employee cost to revenue. And in order to do that, we have to have some guys that are willing to drive and then willing to work the counter. And so we just tend to find more versatile people. And then in the sales department, it's a different sale, right? they don't get to walk into a job site and say, hey, I've got 500 scissor lifts that you can rent right now at $300 a month, right? They get to walk in and say, hey, we have 100 scissor lifts and we really want to be at $400 a month, so it's just a different sale.
Yep, that makes sense. Different type of company, different type of role. We've got a couple questions from the audience I want to get to. So Zayed asks, if this is maybe put on your revenue sales hat, which sounds like your strength, especially getting going. How do you recommend we get new business as a new rental company that started 1 year ago and has about 15 pieces of equipment?
So when we started our first store, it was grassroots marketing, right? We were getting out. I was talking to all the landscape shops. The other thing I would just say, there's no better salesman in your company than you as the owner or probably the executive. So you will drive your own business. Get out and meet some of the business owners. Play an outside sales role. One of the things we did smartly is we did not hire outside salesmen for a while. I was our outside sales guy as one of the owners, right? So I knew exactly how I wanted to drive our business, and I went out and made strategic partnerships and relationships. And so we started small, right? I brought in one customer and really serviced them really well, and then that built on to 2 and 3 and 4. So yeah, that's my best advice on how to kind of start small and grow. Just full disclosure, we started our first the first store, and we just went heavy into it. The rental game is a little bit of, no guts, no glory kind of thing, right? And so it's really scary to spend $1 million in equipment to open a store, or $500,000 to open a store. But we knew we were good at it. We knew we could do it. And so we did kind of go, in those first years, we bought probably more than we had customers for. And then we just, there's a pressure that comes with that equipment, and we got out and drove it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Sounds like, as the lead, you're the best salesperson for the organization, and you drove those first initial handful of customers. Yep. We have another question related to, I'm going to jump down to another one related to just digital marketing, but related to sales. Mm-hmm. Question is, how important is digital marketing to your sales strategy? PPC, SEO, social media, how important is that for how you guys think about overall sales?
Yeah, these are all great questions. I would tell you that I have not felt the need to have very much digital marketing until now. And I'm talking now being, moving into our 6th location and having a lot more equipment. We're starting to really do a lot more of that. But in the early days, I didn't feel like digital marketing and all that did a whole lot. The Google AdWords, I would definitely say that if I did, that is one of the ones that we did do, right? It was making sure we were coming up on Google searches. And that was important. But, the truth is contractors, at least when we started and we were a little bit smaller, they weren't going to Instagram. They weren't going to Facebook. They weren't, they were kind of old school guys and women that were, looking in the newspaper, or, they wanted to call, right? We still had that 1-877 number that, we would put everywhere, because we just found that it was, the construction industry in and itself is kind of a slow adapter to technology. And so we've always that's been our strategy, is be more salesman heavy and be in your face, meeting you face to face, as that's what our customers wanted, as opposed to seeing a coupon in some ad or some magazine.
Yeah, and think about 2008, right? I don't even know if Instagram was around then, right? Do you think that's changed at all into 2023? Like, do you feel like digital marketing is more likely to have success now, or do you still think at the end of the day our customers really aren't online? It's a relational business, and not a huge priority right now. Yeah,
and this actually goes into another good topic. I think first of all, it really depends on what your customer makeup is, and you should know those numbers. 5 years ago, we were at like 30% homeowner and walk-in traffic, do it yourself kind of people. Today, I would tell you that number has dropped significantly, probably to about 12%.
And was
and
that,
so
was that intentional strategic move, or that kind of
a
happened?
little bit, that was a little bit strategic. We, the truth is that the money is in contractors and, commercial and industrial work. You can't ever say no to the homeowners. You want them to come in, but they are higher maintenance, right? They tend to not know the equipment as well as contractors. They tend to be a little rougher on equipment. So it was a little intentional, but I do feel like digital marketing and that homeowner traffic is driven more and more and more by digital marketing. Facebook, we're actually seeing, I'll tell you, of all the platforms, we're seeing Facebook Marketplace as a very hot place to sell equipment, to buy some equipment, honestly, and just market. So we're actually literally in the process of kind of revamping our digital space, right? The other good one, just so you know, that we've seen over the last 4 years is LinkedIn. We've really done a lot of LinkedIn posts because we feel like that does target professional kind of contractors, and our customers are on there as well. So,
yeah, thanks for that. Well, Sam, you're a popular guy. We got 4 questions here, so I'm going to go to Ziad because it's related to something you just said earlier. Which his question is, would you invest more in the smaller items as a new business or larger items, or must have for both? I think you mentioned in the early days you overinvested in equipment, and force the sales to catch up.
Yeah.
Questions around the allocation between smaller or big items.
Yeah. Well, again, in the rental industry, I don't think I'm saying anything that these, all the people on here don't know, but your return on investment on small equipment is really good, right? You're going to be way more profitable. You're just not going to have a ton of revenue. So you need a mix of both for sure, right? Because it's going to take you 3 years to pay back a 60-foot man lift at $100,000 cost. It is going to bring in $30,000, where a $3,000 aerator will bring in $6,000 and make a 200% ROI, but you're only making $3,000, right? So you do need the scale on both ends. If you want to go heavy into the homeowner market and get a lot of little things and find a way to make sorry about that, and make a lot of money on, or a lot of rentals and make a lot of money that way. I think it's very, very possible, and it is very lucrative. But if you want to grow a company, you have to have the big stuff. I think if you want to really grow a rental business, you have to have the big stuff that brings in the big dollars. And that goes into a little bit of your financing, the question on financing, right? Obviously, we're paying cash for small stuff, but we're financing the $100,000 item. So we have a note payment. And then after 5 years, it's basically all profit. If we can find a way to stay in business for 5 years and rent that thing consistently and keep it working consistently. So it doesn't the question. There you go.
Well, that leads to another question here from Sherry, which is your guidance on managing your cash flow and financing and knowing when to sell or update own gear. It's a little bit of a balancing act. I'm sure you have a lot of data around that. There's also a little bit of gut feel. So you're thinking about managing cash flow, financing, when do you buy, when do you sell, when you update equipment. How do you think about all those different variables?
Yeah, a great question. You can have a lot of rentals and have a lot of money in your AR department, but if it can't be collected, you're really not doing well. So one is make sure you're putting, at least in the early days, you're choosing the customers that are safe. And I do think you need to take risk at a certain point with customers, but collecting that money is really, really important. The buying and selling of equipment, it's a really important piece of the rental game. I will tell you, RentalWorks has really built our company around keeping our equipment longer by maintaining it and painting it and keeping it in our rental fleet for a longer period of time than most rental companies. And that served us really well because obviously the longer you can keep a piece of equipment, that has been paid off, the more profitability you make, right? What you risk is potentially having a less attractive piece of equipment for your customers, right? But if you can paint it and it really does run well, then you make a lot of money. And then selling that piece of equipment for the most amount of money. Right now in the industry, you can get amazing money for your used equipment and offload it. Your problem is you can't really replace it that fast, right? So 6 months ago, I sold a track loader, a TL8 Takeuchi track loader. I had bought it for $51,000 5 or 6 years ago, and a guy paid $42,000 to buy it used with 2,000 hours, right? I feel like we maximize the money, we maximize the rental on that item, but I still, I still don't have its replacement, and its replacement might be here in September, right? So, I took the cash up front on that unit, knowing that I was going to lose out on the rental income over a 6 or 8 month period. So we're being really strategic on what we offload based on reliability of the equipment, right? And sometimes there is just a deal that is just too good. And when a customer is going to buy, they're going to buy. And sometimes you want to retain that customer. So you do sell it to kind of retain the customer as well. But overall, I would say my advice and the way we've done it is by retaining our equipment for a longer period of time and being a rental company and not a sales company.
Got it. Finance, roughly, just taking a step back, finance it for 5 years, maintain it really well, keep it in good shape, paint it. After that 5 years, it's all profit, right? And what you're doing is making long-term patient investment, and it's painful in the first few years, I imagine, but you've now been there 15 years and you've seen the fruit of that, of being able to own the equipment and maintain it, make those investments in service and repair. And it just yields much better, profitable machines, I imagine.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, yeah. And don't get me started on equipment, but the truth is some of our older equipment is some of our most reliable equipment. Before there were 6 computers in some of these things, my mechanics will tell you that they love working on our 10-year-old equipment as opposed to our 2-year-old equipment.
They don't make it like they used to. Yeah. Same with a lot of things, iPhones, everything.
Yeah.
Another equipment question, commenting around the skid steer behind you, which is a very versatile machine. What is your strategy with attachment rental?
That's a great question. Our strategy is heavy on attachments. We believe that attachments rent skid steers and loaders like this, and also at this point excavators, and actually also at this point some forklifts as well. So we've gone heavy on attachments. And that goes back to a little bit to the question prior, which is, attachments kind of are small equipment, right? They have less cost to them, or at least most of the time have less cost to them, but you can charge a little more, right? So, for example, one of the big things in our market right now is trash hoppers, right? The contractor used to make these flimsy plywood trash boxes for a forklift, right? And they would use it and fork it up to height and throw their trash in it. Well, OSHA got wind of it. OSHA didn't love it, and they started sanctioning those contractors. We have since been buying from Star Industries a steel fabricated trash hopper that is OSHA approved. And we're making $400 to $500 extra a month on the forklift rental when you get that attachment. So, if we're renting an 8K for $2,500 a month, and we make another $500, it's great money, right? It's a great return. So we really go heavy on attachments. The 2 attachments that I would tell you we stay away from, or we don't stay away from them, we are conscious of, are breakers, right? So actually on that machine behind me, it does have a breaker on it. We know that breaker is going to life that machine faster. So what we try to do is to keep the breakers on the same pieces of equipment so that we can kind of keep one piece getting lifed as opposed to all of them. And then there's another one called a planer that is also very hard on skid steers and things like that. which also that piece of equipment tends to be, $15,000 to $30,000 depending on the one you get. So there's some attachments we stay away from, but the majority of them we keep in abundance. It's funny, I tell, just my last thing here is we have a customer who rents a track loader, auger, and forks on every rental. And so we built a customer based around that attachment because they needed those attachments and versatility. So, every year I buy 20 to 30 auger attachments. I don't have that many auger. I don't have, we shouldn't have to buy that many, but you're going to lose some, right? They're going to break, they're going to get stolen, but there's low dollar items that return so much money. We just know that it's better to have them and have them in bulk.
Yeah, that makes sense. Last current question from the audience is going back to the people side. How do you make sure all team members are consistently completing tasks the way that you want them to? So I think we've talked about the hiring process. You vetted them, you sourced them, vetted them. They're in the culture, but they're not doing things the way you like them to. How do you handle that? Make sure there's consistency across your employee base.
Yeah. So number one, I would tell you, we use a system called Scaling Up. There's another system that I would tell anyone to look into. It's called Traction. And that is a system that allows people to, that allows management to really give good feedback to people, give good, tasks and task lists, and then also keeps them accountable to those tasks. The answer really here is effort. I believe I heard the other week, what is metric is managed, right? So if you have metrics around something, you can manage it. If you don't have metrics, as we've gotten bigger, we have a lot more metrics. But I will tell you, one of the metrics I used when we were one location, I went outside and I would pressure wash a piece of equipment the way I wanted it done, thoroughly and well. And I would time myself and I would say, okay, this one took me 20 minutes. And then I would give a time frame for my pressure washer guys, right? And I knew that they were never going to be me, right? But I would try to keep it metric. And then I knew that if it took them an hour, I would go out and have a conversation with them, right? And keep them accountable. Hey, why'd this take so long? Let's talk through this. What happened? So yeah, metrics are really important. And then a good communication system, a good way for your employees to feel heard, and also for you to kind of communicate what your expectations are really well.
Yeah, I think another piece on the metric side is also incentives too. I think about the Charlie Munger quote, tell me the incentives and I'll tell you what the outcome is too. So it's also aligning people to the outcomes you want to achieve as well.
Yep.
So those are the current questions from the audience. I want to jump back into some of the topics here. So we've talked about equipment, we've talked about people, we've talked a little bit about funding. We haven't really touched on technology a lot. So when you think about technology investments you're making, and we could talk 10 years out, right? It's AI, who knows? No one really knows. But next 2 or 3 years, I know you're, believe you're working on track unit on GPS, but tell me about some of the technology investments you've made, are making, what's worked, what's not worked. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. 5 years ago, we had no tracking on any of our stuff. 7 years ago, I would say we were with a not forward-thinking company in terms of our point of rental or point of sale system. We have since obviously gone heavy into track unit. I think I saw a stat that like 5 years ago, 20% of the rental industry had trackers on their equipment, and today it's up at like 80% or something crazy like that. That number could be wrong, don't quote me on it, but that's certainly true for us, right? We went from not wanting to invest the money into trackers to realizing it's a no-brainer. We were losing about one big piece of equipment a year, and that is actually an embarrassing number for me to tell everyone. But the first time you lose a $50,000 track machine, you wonder why you're not paying $50,000 for trackers, right? So we did that 2 years in a row, and we realized, okay, let's invest. And there's been obviously some other benefits to it, right? But I think we're still at the infancy stage of kind of what trackers and track unit is going to do for us long term, right? Really understanding the intervals for service and when equipment's going to break down, or what piece of each equipment's going to break down, I think is really going to be interesting to see what happens. But the start of it is you just got to have the unit tracked. You got to have the module in each unit. So we've done that. We have not gone so far overboard as to say we're tracking our buckets and our like cutoff saws and things like that. But everything kind of track trencher on up, we are tracking at this point. And again, we currently are only using it as a metric item in the way of where it is, right? And if it's leaving geofences. And saving us on delivery and saving us with customers. You know, every once in a while we'll have a customer say, "Hey, you didn't deliver that thing." And we'll say, "Oh yeah, it's sitting over here." You know, so that's a big one. The other thing, and truthfully, you know, kind of a shout out to Quipli. You know, because the rental industry is growing so much over the last 5 years, we're starting to see really smart people come into our industry to solve problems that we've been dealing with for, you know, 100 years probably in the rental industry. You know, starting with tracking, but you know, how do you get good software to maintain and watch all the data that we have going on this equipment? And I'm really, like, personally really excited about that. You know, we think the sky's the limit, and we've really kind of said at RentalWorks, we've said we're willing to kind of make investments in technology when it really pushes the industry forward. So, you know, we did move on from our software system that we were with for 15 years because truthfully, we thought we found something that helped us grow and made us better. And to continue to have that mindset, it's one of our core values, growth, right? Growth and new ideas. So the really fun thing is seeing really smart companies, people come into this industry and start to really give us solutions to problems that we have often, you know, around, and quite honestly, it's mostly around inventory tracking and customer tracking and doing it all seamlessly.
Well, it sounds like the GPS telematics stuff you've done has been a no-brainer. So maybe that's one of the takeaways for the audience. It's almost like once you're a certain size, a piece of equipment, just spend the money. You know, you'll be thankful for it later.
Yeah, it's absolutely a no-brainer. The other one that's kind of a no-brainer that tracking your trucks and your delivery fleet is a no-brainer. And then the other one, and this one's been a little bit harder to push, but the whole dash cam movement. Yeah. You know, drivers do not love being recorded, so we've kind of made a deal with them. If you're a driver with us and you do a great job, we won't put a dash cam in your truck until you have your first incident. The second you have your first incident, you're going to have a camera on you and on the road. And insurance companies love that. We get a discount on our insurance because of that. And it really has cut down on, quite honestly, texting and driving and phone calls and driving. So there is, I mean, this technology and the things that we're able to do is really, really important. And, you know, another thing that we're doing, we have an initiative this year, and it's called Pictures Solve Problems. You know, 5 years ago, it was like, you know, I know we all had iPhones 5 years ago, but where do you store all the pictures and how do you deal with all that data? Well, 5 years now, you know, zoom forward to 2023, you know, we do have places to store 10,000 pictures, right? And we can take 10 pictures on every job and know that those pictures are around forever and can be stored seamlessly, whether it's on your system or on the cloud or even just through Google, right? I mean, we have a lot of options there, so that we didn't have years ago.
Yeah. So related to the delivery piece, we have another question from the audience is, as a new company, at what point do you begin to internalize equipment delivery and pickup rather than brokered out? Sounds like that's almost entirely in-house right now for you guys. Was there a point when it wasn't in-house, and how should a group think about that?
Yeah, actually, well, let me say this. We reversed that thought. We brought everything in-house to start, and then we've grown so big that once we've gotten big, we've had to go outside of our house. So one of our first major investments, and this was a gamble for sure, is we bought a Class A truck, right? An 18-wheeler. We bought it knowing we wanted to grow into that equipment and we wanted to develop our systems around having those types of trucks. We didn't necessarily have the equipment that you had to have for that, right? But it allowed for bulk moves, right? 2 or 3 or 4 skid steers on that truck, as opposed to just having some Class C or Class B trucks. So we really grew our business around the idea that delivery and operations is really, really important. And if we're going to go out and get those deals, we have to at least start to believe we can do it and do it in-house. The other thing is, and this is kind of the discouraging piece of the rental industry, I don't know that we've been profitable yet in our delivery, straight delivery to cost of what the delivery is in-house. That again, that's not uncommon in my opinion. You know, I think we break even on our good years, but what we make and the ability to retain customers and give great customer service and the ability to deliver early or to deliver late or to do overtime things has well outweighed and brought in customers that have made us the profitability back on the equipment and service side.
Yeah, delivery is almost kind of like the Costco food court, maybe a loss leader, but you know, it gets the job done. Another question from the audience, Sam, I really appreciate the great info you were putting out there. I know we spoke about hiring from industry giants before. Any tips to competing against those huge companies locally? Herc just bought another independent rental company in my area, and I know Herc actually bought one of our Quipli customers as well. So I'm curious. That was actually one of the topics I want to get to. Competing with the national players. How do you think about that?
Yeah. So yeah, the bad news is this, right? We all know the bad news. We all have the same or basically the same equipment. They tend to have newer equipment and they tend to have more of it. And lastly, although we're seeing a little bit of a change in this, they've also tended to be cheaper than us, right? So the big question is, why rent from Sam Wagner at RentalWorks when I can get a newer piece of equipment, same piece of equipment, a little cheaper? And the answer is a lot of things, but number one, it is, in my opinion, it's the culture that we've developed in our company. Our customers love working with us and they feel like partners with us as opposed to customers to us. And we've made that very clear to them, you know, that you're not just a number to us, you're very important, right? One of our big sales pitches, we don't care if you rent $100 or $100,000, you're very important to us and we're going to treat you the same. So that's been a big one. But then also just doing some market research. I will tell you, you know, Sunbelt, United, those guys, in certain markets, they do things really well and they do some things really poorly, and those don't necessarily correlate to each market, right? But I'll tell you, in my market, a big frustration that people that come to us tell us about is there's no there's no continuity in who they call, right? So if they want to do work in Washington, D.C., they've got to call this gentleman. And if they want to do work in Baltimore, they've got to call this gentleman. And if they have a problem with their invoice, they call this person. And if they have a problem with service, they call this person. And they just got tired of having to call 100 different people for 100 different problems. So we came out with a sales pitch of one call solution, right? You have your salesperson. Your salesperson is your rental coordinator. He will turn in a rental. He will call off a rental. He will turn in a rental to a different salesman's territory, right? You don't have to work with that different salesman. This salesman is your salesman. And really made that seamless for our customers, right? And they really were willing to pay a little bit more to work with us and get that kind of customer service. The other thing is, and it's just the truth. The big truth is they're a Titanic and they cannot change directions very fast. We can change directions on a dime, right? We can bend the rules. I don't want to say break the rules, but we certainly can bend the rules, right? We can figure out how to get something done. A big piece of working for us is being entrepreneurial, right? So, you know, Sunbelt and United, they have what they have and they have a lot of it. But if they don't have it, they kind of say no, right? But if you come to me and want to rent a TV, there's a chance I go out and buy a TV and figure out how to rent it to you, right? I can be entrepreneurial in that way. And then the last thing I'll just say is Sunbelt and United, have started to do this a little bit more, but sub rentals, right, have been a big way that we've grown. And being a small independent rental company, I'm able to actually utilize Sunbelt and United and some of these other companies by renting equipment from them and turning around and renting it to our customers for a little bit more, therefore giving me a bigger rental fleet. And because they're Sunbelt and United are kind of willing to take a little less money on some equipment, I can make money on it and the customer's still happy.
Yeah, makes sense. Related to that, question came in, where do you get your sub rentals, and are you willing to take a loss on the sub rental to serve your customer? You mentioned earlier, you want to, yes, and is the answer.
Yep.
Are you willing to take losses in certain situations, and how do you think about that related to sub rentals?
Yeah, in the early years, I wasn't. In the early years, I was very judicious on our sub rentals. But nowadays, we look at our sub rental as a whole, right? And I'm wanting to keep a certain percentage of markup on our sub rental. But we do realize, again, this year we're going to do in the millions of dollars of sub rentals, not hundreds of thousands. So we realize there's going to be some that we take a hit on, right? The truth is we guaranteed a man lift out to a customer, and that man lift broke down, and it happened to be our last one. I turn around and I sub rent it to make sure that that customer's happy and doesn't leave here saying, "Gosh, I really got screwed by Rental Works." So on occasion we take a loss, but for the most part we do not take a loss. And the way we do that really is sub rentals is all about developing a relationship with the people you sub rent from. And some of them are people like Acme, who their whole business model is sub rental. And others are, other independent rental companies that just want to work together, right? I've developed some great relationships with other independents in our area. And we kind of have agreed that we would not impose on each other's customers, but we'll sub rent to one another. We've developed a good relationship there. And then others is, there are some Sunbelt locations that are willing to do it and willing, we take on a lot of the service side, and we're willing to pay kind of what they're renting. But it is all because we developed a relationship with them and they trust us. It's not just us going in there and being a member. So sub rental is all about developing those relationships. And I started early doing that.
A follow-up question here is, did your customers know you are sub renting, and do you remove the stickers from the machines when you do that?
Yeah. Well, when it's green, it's pretty hard to hide that it's green. We do not hide. There was a little moment in there where I was like, well, maybe we should put this sticker over their sticker. But the truth is it's kind of putting a Band-Aid on an elephant, right? So what we would do is we put our stickers underneath their stickers, and we would just kind of tell our customers that we worked in coordination with them, right? To bring them great customer service. We were upfront and honest about it. And they would say, well, why don't I just go to them and rent it cheaper? And I'd say, well, you can certainly try. I have a relationship with them, and they give me a special discount to be able to make this work for you. Sorry, guys. But yeah, we've been kind of upfront and honest with that. The truth is 5% of our customers ever even ask. We really don't get the question. And when it's not from Sunbelt, it's really hard to tell. Sunbelt does have those green pieces of equipment, so that one's the hardest.
Yeah. Well, Sam, I want to wrap up here. We've just got a couple minutes left. Final question for you is just personal highlights in the last 15 years. Do you think about any anecdotal stories or things that have really stood out to you of just like, man, this is awesome? Some small wins you've had over the last decade. Yeah,
that's a great question. Number one, I just say this, the rental industry is a lot of fun. And I look back on some of the hardest times we've had in the industry as some of the most fun times, right? I look back on a time when my best friend towed a log splitter down the street upside down, and it's on flames, and he's just driving with the radio blaring, and we kind of still laugh about those moments, right? Because you're going to have bad moments. Equipment's going to get broken. We have a joke amongst the ownership that when new equipment comes in, we all get a hammer, and we get to go out and hit the piece of equipment one time so that we get to put the first dent in the piece of equipment. So I think making it fun and just having a really fun time with the people you're working with and the equipment and liking what we do, that's really been the highlight for me, is finding something I'm passionate about, and finding something that genuinely I feel like we get to help people every day accomplish their goal, right? And sometimes we get to play Superman and do it quicker, and that's really fun. And sometimes it's just because we know about equipment and we're kind of equipment nerds, and we like that too. So that's been a big highlight. The last thing I'd just say is it's been a massive highlight to work with my father and with his business partner, who's really like an uncle to me. Building a family business has been a lot of fun, and it certainly doesn't come without its challenges. It is hard at times, but that has been a massive highlight for me, is doing what I like to do with people I like, and especially with my dad and my family. Yeah,
That's awesome. Well, Sam, you've been an awesome guest today. The second rental roundtable here. I think we had 11 or 12 questions from the audience, which has been awesome. Just to wrap things up for everyone and for Sam as well, we'll send out a recording at the end of this with also a survey. So, things you like, didn't like, what can we do better for the next time, and any other topics the group would like to hear for future episodes. But Sam, I appreciate you coming on. It's been great speaking with you and hearing about all of your experience the last 10, 15 years.
Thank you very much, Kyle. It's good talking to you.
You too.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
See ya. Bye.